What's up, guys? Boy, Benny. So I love America a lot. I was born here. I'm raising my family here. I wish for this nation to continue. You may call me a Native American because, this is actually where I'm from. And so it's really important, if we are wishing to continue the American experiment, for us to have leaders that can steady the ship and ensure our future. Particularly important for a guy like me who has 3 kids. And it is with that table setting that I wish to offer to you the leader of America. Here's Joe Biden from seconds ago, giving what some would call a speech, apparently in the English language. See if you can decipher it.
Beer brewed here, it is used to make the brew beer in this refinery. Oh, Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes. I wonder why it's called.
Let's check the transcript here. What did Joe Biden literally just say in that clip? In beer brew here, isha would to make the beer brew here. Ish we're finna Earth Rider, thanks for the Great Lakes. Whatever that is, it's not English. Not to sound xenophobic, but that's the language of our country. English is the language on our currency. English is the primary language of governance and business around the world because of America, and the resident of our nation can't speak it. And so it is keeping in mind these important factors when I look at articles like this that make me go, ha, 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 ha. You see, Naomi Biden's granddaughter is clapping back on X to a Fox News host named Jesse Waters in a really interesting and quite frankly shocking move, because most of the Biden family doesn't defend him at all. And the reason why is because it is indefensible what they're doing. What they're doing to Joe Biden is indefensible because the entire Biden family is using Joe Biden's corpse effectively, right? Slightly warmed over microwave corpse to get themselves rich. They are ramrodding a guy who should clearly be in a facility, a olds people care facility. He should maybe be hospitalized. The last place he should be is in the most stressful job in the world. And I'm not saying this as a political partisan. I am saying this as a human being. Could you imagine doing that to somebody in your family that has dementia and who's like in their mid-80s? It's cruel and it's immoral, okay? So that's the first thing I have to say to Naomi Biden. The second thing I have to say to Naomi Biden is, why'd you block me? I should be able to click on your tweet here, but you blocked me. So now I have to read the article, okay? What did we do to you, Naomi? What did we do to you? Naomi, come on. Come on. Was it too many times reading Ashley Biden's diary, talking about how she showers with her father? You blocked me, but you won't block the guys who tried to break into the Secret Service vehicle outside of your house, leading the Secret Service having to fire off a bunch of rounds. No bad things to say about them. Secret Service opens fire on people attempting to break into a car outside Naomi Biden's home. Oh, okay, interesting. So because of what you, your family, and your political ideology has done, you are not even safe inside of Washington, D.C., yet you block me, Naomi. Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? I don't know. I'm not sure. I would never break into your car, okay? And I've only ever read your sister's diary because she just left it flapping around. Like a lot of people in the Biden family, if you know what I mean. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden's granddaughter, Naomi, has jumped to his defense and torn into Jesse Waters for crossing the line, branding the president a bad father. This is a bizarre thing for her to do. Here's the tweet. I can't show it to you because I'm blocked. Naomi Biden, I've heard many lies about my family. Takes a lot to make me upset, but this crossed the line. Not sure how a man can call himself a reporter. I hope he never has a son or a daughter who struggles with anything. You can disagree with his politics without being this ugly, Naomi Biden says, weepingly crying as mongoloid criminal hordes break into her house in Georgetown, and the Secret Service has to blast away at them, right? Because of what her family's done to this city and this nation's capital. But remember, the real threat to Naomi Biden are words said on Fox News that aren't even that mean, by the way. As a father, this story really plucked a nerve because Jesse Waters is right. ladies and gentlemen, this is what's important. Here's the clip that corresponded to the tweet for Naomi Biden. She blocked me, by the way. Did you know that?
I knew Biden was bad on the border because he's not the best father. The man can't say no to his own son. He can't say stop. He can't have consequences for actions. And that's what you need. You need a man in charge on the border to say this is not going to be allowed. And if you do break in, this is.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Directly into my veins. Let me make something very clear, Naomi. You're not a parent yet. And so you would never understand. And you come from a family of people that don't take responsibility for any of their actions ever. Your old grandpa got your degenerate father out of prison time and time again for his illegal drug use and crack use, whilst locking up, by the way, tens of thousands of young black men for doing a scintilla of what Hunter Biden did. Your father, who is Hunter Biden, used so much crack and so much cocaine that he sprinkled it all over his illegal firearms that he owned. He bragged about crawling on his hands and knees to smoke Parmesan, thinking it was crack. Now, Naomi, you don't have kids yet, but you got to understand that you come from a family of complete and total degenerate losers because there has never been any accountability in your family. In fact, your own father refuses to be accountable for his own children. Of course, you have a sister out there, Naomi. Did you know that? Your sister lives in Arkansas. Her name is Navy Joan Roberts. She's your father's daughter. That makes you sisters. But your dad, instead of taking into account and taking responsibility for his actions, was too busy crawling on his hands and knees looking for Parmesan.
Crack cocaine. I probably smoked more Parmesan cheese than anyone that you know, I'm sure, Tracy.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, what are you talking about, man? And what are you talking about, Naomi, when you post a clip like this? This is precisely how parenting is done. Unlike you, who come from a family of abandoners and people who've only ever used granddaddy's lock and key to get them out of jail, the old my daddy's senator card, you come from a place of extreme privilege here. Using your political ideology's words against you. You see, most Americans have to live by the consequences of their actions. They don't get to actually just skate by. But you've never had to experience that, have you? Watch this.
Have a piece of crack cocaine no bigger than this quarter that I'm holding in my hand, $1/4 of $1. We passed a law through the leadership of Senator Thurmond and myself and others, a law that says if you're caught with that, you go to jail for 5 years. You get no probation. You get nothing other than 5 years in jail. Judge doesn't have a choice.
Judge doesn't have a choice. So let me ask you, Naomi, with the enormous amount of crack and cocaine that your dad's done, has he ever done any jail time? Because this thing that your grandfather was bragging about, well, it's locked up hundreds of thousands of other men and crack users and cocaine dealers in America. But somehow, your dad has been a free man in spite of being kicked out of the Navy for crack cocaine, in spite of being kicked out of the U.S. military for crack cocaine, in spite of crawling around on the floor and using crack cocaine in video after video after video after video, in spite of sprinkling crack cocaine on his firearms.
Cocaine residue was found on the leather case Hunter Biden stores his gun in.
Cheryl Casoni has had her nose all over this story. She's with Fox Business. She's here with more. Cheryl.
Oh, good morning. Puns are well done, guys, Carly and Todd. So federal prosecutors say that a brown leather pouch used by Hunter Biden to store his gun had cocaine residue on it. And this as his defense team tried unsuccessfully to get the gun charges against him dismissed. According to to a court filing, an FBI chemist subsequently analyzed the residue, determined it was cocaine. To be clear, investigators literally found drugs on the pouch where the defendant had kept his gun. Now, Hunter reportedly buying the gun at that time and affirmed that he was not using any drugs because you have to submit this U.S. government form. Well, prosecutors telling the judge the strength of the evidence against him is, quote, overwhelming. The gun pouch was pulled from a state police vault last year. Then they tested it. A chemist with the FBI determined it was cocaine residue. Now, he's pleaded not guilty to these charges, accusing him of lying about his drug use back in October of 2018 when he filled out that form to buy that gun that he kept for about 11 days.
So, just a question for Naomi here. Do you stand by, like, are you proud of that? And why hasn't your dad ever seen the inside of a prison cell? Because your grandfather's bragging about how many young men he locked up for doing far less than that. I mean, what your grandfather did was lock up guys who weren't sprinkling their crack on their guns, presumably. But here we are. Check this out. This is from the federal filing against your dad, Naomi. Hunter Biden hit with 9 new charges filed in California. Includes evasion of taxes, failure to pay taxes, false fraudulent tax returns. Wow. A 4-year scheme to avoid paying millions in taxes. What's really interesting about these new charges, and here are the charges for your father, Naomi, is that they had nothing to do with his drug use. They did have to do with your grandfather being a horrible dad. And they do have to do with the fact that your father's a horrible dad. Sorry. Because in the filing, it shows that Hunter Biden, your father, was lying to your mom about the alimony that he owed her while spending $350,000 a year on prostitutes. Are you in favor of women, Naomi? Are you in favor of women's rights and not being abused by men? Well, your father's one of the greatest abusers of women we've ever known. Hunter Biden spent a staggering $872,000, nearly $1 million, on prostitutes, porn, sex club membership. He took millions from ATMs. The first son's spending laid out in wild tax evasion case. Well, well, well. Would you look at that? Well, well, well. So are you proud of this, Naomi? Amazing how you're like clapping back at Jesse Waters, who is a father, actually, and I assume a good one, because he does know the limitations. He does know the lines. He does know how to be a dad and how to say he doesn't want his child to end up like this. And good, stern fatherhood would have gotten you there. Amazingly, Naomi didn't tweet about Tim Dillon or Joe Rogan, but she should have, because they said far worse about the parenting aspects and traits of your grandfather.
Reason that they had a meeting over the holidays where they're like, we're assessing July 4th holidays. No, this was during the holidays, and they were like, the Biden family had this meeting. Jamie could look it up. Where they were like, December. Yeah, where they were like, we're going to see if he's going to run again. And Jill and Hunter and the rest of the crew met, and they decided it's a great idea for him to run again. And I'm like, it's crazy sending a guy that old into battle again. And I don't, so
there was some article, Jamie, about the accusations of how much money they received. Like some new one came out today. They were trying to figure out how much money the Biden family received during this whole Hunter Biden scandal thing.
Right. Well, it's a big scandal. People are going like, well, his son's an addict and he stood by his son. Number one, don't stand by it. Like if a laptop came out where I had done what Hunter Biden did, my family would tell people I was dead. Like, and they're not even the president. My dad sells wine and he wouldn't admit, like, there is a time you cannot support your kids, by the way. What are we talking about? People are like, well, he's a good father. It's like, is he? Was he?
Do you think it was his coke at the White House?
Whose coke is it outside? It's definitely his coke. But I don't like narcs and rats, so I think he should be he can have a blast.
Yeah, what's the big deal? You're in dad's house.
If your father's a president, you can't have a blast? You can't do a little bump?
Where's the nasty tweet there, Naomi? Not that I would see it. You blocked me. How about the guy who had hookers snort it off his blank? Why don't we start there, says Rob Snyder. The mystery of the cocaine user at the White House.
Case on the cocaine found at the White House. They said, we may never know where this came from. We may never know who brought it here. We may never know. We must close the case. We have no idea where this could have come from, who could have left it. Yeah? Really? How about the guy that had hookers snorted off his cock? Put it on a laptop. Why don't we start there,
Probably
Maybe ask him
good
a few questions.
place to start. Was it Naomi's? We can't be sure. We don't know. We're not sure. But we know one thing. This whole faux, like, oh, how could you go after? He's such a victim. He's such a victim. This bullshit isn't working. We know that. We know that for sure. Okay? Jill Biden tried to pull the same thing in a recent interview.
You've been coping personally with the onslaught of accusations against your husband and your family, including and especially Hunter. It's the focus of a House Oversight Committee hearing, holding him in contempt, obsessing over him, showing pictures of him during vulnerable moments in his battle with addiction on the floor of the House. This would crush any family.
Mika, I think what they are doing to Hunter is cruel. And I'm really proud of how Hunter has rebuilt his life after addiction. You know, I love my son, and it's hurt my grandchildren, and that's what I'm so concerned about. That it's affecting their lives as well.
Not your son. You're the babysitter. You cheated on Joe Biden with his wife, and you cheated on your husband with Joe Biden. Hunter Biden's not your son. 2, you're the babysitter. 3, you're talking about your grandchildren. You don't even acknowledge your grandchildren. You didn't even acknowledge your granddaughter, Navy Joan Roberts. It took a scolding from the New York Times for you to actually acknowledge that you have 7 grandkids, not 6. But you know what? This one's for Naomi. Don't care if you block me. Maybe you subscribe, and maybe you're watching this. So if you're watching this, Naomi, you're married. Okay. Piece of advice. When your kids wind up doing drugs, abusing women, destroying their families, destroying their careers, destroying themselves, that is a reflection on you as a parent. You have a biblical charge to care for your children and to raise them up and send them off in the way that they should go. And so it is actually literally the fault of your grandfather. It's going to hurt. Joe Biden, yes, that your dad's so messed up. It wouldn't have happened if your grandfather wasn't such a cursed man and didn't so egregiously and defiantly chase his own political power and his own political prestige for his entire career at the expense of his family. But those were the choices he made. And curses pass on through generations. So my advice to you is to accept that fact, go to the church, pray a lot, and pray against that curse so it doesn't follow you either. These kind of things are family destroyers, and you're witnessing this happen in slow motion or maybe in real time to your family. So watch out. Just advice from one father, one kid to another. Okay? Hard lines. Hard lines. That's how you parent. And in case you want a clip of Jesse Waters giving this good advice, this wise fatherly advice, with full context, we got that for you. Here you go, Naomi.
Biden could stop the flows if he wanted to like that, but he doesn't want to. He just wants to squeeze cash out of Congress and say he did something. He's just doing this because it's an election year, and he's got the Ukraine money tied up in a border deal. That's the only reason. Yep. And you could give him $1 trillion more, Judge, if he still keeps catching and releasing, and we're just $1 trillion more in debt. And we send the Department of Education billions of dollars more every year. Do the schools get any better? No. I knew Biden was bad on the border because he's not the best father. The man can't say no to his own son. He can't say stop. He can't have consequences for actions. And that's what you need. You need a man in charge on the border to say this is not going to be allowed, and if you do break in, this is what's going to happen to you. Now, Fetterman, it seems like the Democrats liked when he couldn't talk. Remember how they thought he was Churchillian when you couldn't understand a word he said? And when his chief of staff was running the show? Now, all of a sudden, he's recovering, thank God, and he starts making sense. And everyone in D.C. and the Democratic Party is like, oh, can you believe this guy? This guy's going to be a real problem over here. I'm with Greg. It feels good to be wrong. It feels better to be right, but it feels good to be wrong.